COVID cough. This is the conversation I was hoping to not have to have with you, which is, what would I do if I got COVID? I got sick with COVID finally towards the end of the pandemic. It's about ready to be endemic, which means there's gonna be a lot more of us who get it. We're sick of wearing masks, we're out traveling, we're out having fun, we're doing the things we wanna be doing, which is what I was doing when I got sick. And the thing is with this bug is it is a tricky little virus. It is so tricky. You gotta be on it, people.
Well, now we have more on that worrying development in the coronavirus crisis. Patients in Sydney, including a health worker, infected, and a warning from health officials to avoid shaking hands to prevent the disease spreading. Joining us.
I'm about day 11 into having COVID. I am testing negative, which is great. And I was feeling like I was almost done with this thing. Like I just about kicked it. And then all of a sudden I got whomped with like the worst exhaustion. Now I have a history of chronic fatigue syndrome, and it's actually my wheelhouse as a practitioner. This is what I do professionally, is help people with chronic fatigue and help people with long COVID. So when I was lying in bed, actually no, what happened was I had a great day, felt awesome. And then right around dinner time, all of a sudden my energy went from here to here. I got bombed, right? And I laid in bed that night, and what it felt like was like the Death Star was about ready to be annihilated. But as a last ditch effort so that they could survive, they spread out like millions of little drones and just, and it was like the COVID just sent out all these little Viron drones and invaded my mitochondria. I woke up, I could just feel this explosion in my body of all these things moving around. You may think I'm crazy, but I'll tell you, that is what it felt like. And I woke up the next morning with that dreaded chronic fatigue feeling of just feeling like there's so much weight in all of my muscles. It is so hard to move around. Thinking about moving is tiring. Sitting here right now talking to you is tiring. And if there was, it feels like there's a muscle in my brain too, and it's also very tired. I know this feeling from being sick down with chronic fatigue for years. I know this feeling from talking with my patients. It sucks. And the thing is that 30% of people who get COVID are at risk for getting long COVID. Now the stupidity of the system, of the medical system right now, is that it says you have to wait 6 months before you get diagnosed with long COVID. Oh, great. So you're just going to hang out and wait, feeling like crap for 6 months, and then finally get a diagnosis of long COVID, and then be told, oh, sorry, we don't have any answers for you. All you can do is maybe pace yourself or take some time off work and rest and relax and, drink lots of water. That would be good too. So obviously we need to do something different for this. What I would tell you as somebody who is experiencing what I'm experiencing right now, and somebody with my history, and somebody who's worked with people with severe chronic fatigue and COVID and lots of complex illness stuff for like 20 years, is that there's a couple things I would be watching out for if I were you. So one, if you know you are at risk for stuff hanging around, not even if you just have chronic fatigue, if it's just sort of your nature, there's this thing called miasms, which I won't go into. It comes out of one of the fields of medicine, but it is, some of us are really easy at kicking things out quickly, and others of us tend to hang on to stuff. So if you've always been that person that if you get a virus, you tend to hang on and have the cough for a longer time, or you tend to be a little bit more tired afterwards, then you may be one of those people that kind of ups your risk to being more susceptible to long COVID. The other thing I'd say is if you are clearly have a history of chronic fatigue, then you are definitely at a higher risk for getting long COVID, because everything in your body knows how to do that, and it's going to go down that same pathway much faster. That's why relapse from chronic fatigue is so common, and it's one of the things that I teach and I work with my practitioners and my patients with, is what is your toolkit so that you don't relapse, because relapse is common for all of us, and you need to be on the alert and be addressing this quickly if you are at risk. The other thing I'd say is COVID has this pattern. I actually just read an article the other day about how well known this pattern has become. I mean, this is the benefit of being at the end of this pandemic, is that we understand the patterns better. There's clearly cycles, and those of you who have had COVID, you know what I'm talking about. There's the first couple days where you may have symptoms or you may not, and then there's where your symptoms come in. And then around day 4 or 5, generally people start feeling a little bit better, right? And this is where some people went for the run and then they ended up getting long COVID. This is sometimes where people went back onto their regular diet of pizza and beer, or they went out dancing, and then all of a sudden they feel way, way worse the next day. I definitely had that day 4 where I'm like, yeah, I got this. My herbs are working. I'm feeling pretty good. My fever's down. This is all going to work out just fine. And then the next day, I felt not so good. Very classic. There's another window that I also fell into, which happens around day, I think it's like around day, it's like about day 8, 9, 10. There's sort of the second place where, again, personally, I started feeling like, again, that I got it. Even from that little relapse around day 5, I changed up my protocol. I started taking more stuff. I was like, oh yeah, I got this. I've been doing tongue diagnosis with my friend every day, and my tongue was looking better. And then I got that wallop around day 9 of just this deep, deep, deep in your cells fatigue. For other people, this may be when you get the symptoms of it going into your cardiovascular system or into your lungs or into your brain. Basically, the thing about COVID is it wants to survive, man. It's good at surviving. It's good at replicating. It's good at, it's super contagious. It's good at spreading, and it's good at hanging out in your body, and it will go to where you are weak. So wherever you have a pre-existing condition, especially if you happen to have a pre-existing condition that has a lot of the same receptors as it likes to ride on, the ACE2 inhibitors, that ACE2, that's why you have people with, if you're at risk of high diabetes, that's a problem with this particular little bug, as we well know. But whatever your weakness is, that's where it's going to go to. So for me, I knew that I had to protect my nervous system from my history of chronic fatigue and some things that were going on in my brain because of my mold and mycotoxin exposures. I had to really protect my nervous system and my brain from this thing. So I've been taking a lot of extra stuff to support that system in my body. Somebody else may need to really protect their cardiovascular system if they have a history of heart attack. For somebody else who has metabolic syndrome or prediabetes or diabetes, they really need to protect their vascular system and also really work on their metabolic health. So you need to be aware of that, of those windows, and be preventing yourself from getting at risk. Now this whole 6-month thing, I'm like, right, I'm going to wait 6 months. No way. Like, I'm already aware that, I hate the idea of labels, but I have to be honest and say that I already know right now on whatever day 11 that I'm at risk for long COVID because of what happened to this virus on me in this day 9, 10 thing, and how I feel. Like, this feels like chronic fatigue. I know this feeling too well. I've been down this road twice, and I have no intention of going down again. So I'm pulling out all the frickin' stops to be able to get my body back into a higher state of health. And I'm going to be journaling this for you, for anyone out there that this is going to serve, because honestly, a couple reasons. One, it helps me. I'll just be frank about that. It helps me to know that something that I'm going through, some of my pain and suffering, can help somebody else. It gives me a sense of purpose. 1000% selfish there. The other thing is that I know that you need to be feeling your best. Like, I know we need you to be doing your good work. This article I read, they're wondering, why is it that the workforce isn't coming back the way they expected? And they just had this realization like, oh my gosh, it's because 30% of the population is too frickin' tired to go back to work. Now, if you figured out a way to not need to work and live your life happily, kudos to you. That's great. But if you're sitting there going, I wish I could get back to work, but I'm too tired, that is a problem. You have things to contribute to your family, to the world, to your work. You've got you to live, and living with chronic fatigue, long COVID is not really living. It's walking in the land of the dead, and it sucks. And I have no interest in going there, and I'm pulling out everything I can to fight that, and I know which things to do, and I'll talk about that in the next video. And I just really want you to know that if you're struggling, no matter if you've been dealing with this for 2 years or 2 weeks or 2 months, always have hope. Always have hope. There's going to be some way that we can get your body to flip over so that it responds to this virus, it gets it out of your body, and you can get your energy back.
3 days later.
Yesterday was day 14 and I woke up feeling good. I did my hour-long meditation, Joe Dispenza meditation, and then jumped into a 90-minute work call with one of the people on my team and was feeling like my brain was working and my energy was there and it felt so good until about 70 minutes into the call, and then I just started to tank. And those of you who have chronic fatigue or long COVID, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you go from, oh, I'm doing pretty well, to, oh, I'm beginning to feel tired, to like, you're just going down into that negative energy zone, and you know it's not going to be good. You just know it's not going to be good. I had to get off the call, cut it off a bit short. Sorry, apologies. I just got to go. And I went and I laid down and I had a 2 frickin' hour nap at like 10 o'clock in the morning. Got up feeling terrible, groggy, tired, brain fogged, and bummed out, to be honest, really bummed. I just felt like, what the heck? Like, I literally was going into my fear around my chronic fatigue getting triggered by COVID. What did that mean for me as a physician who practices helping people with chronic fatigue? What does it mean for people that are on my schedule next week? I already rescheduled people last week because I had a fever of 101. And I could tell that I was just, just not in a great space. So I did a couple things I want to share with you because it helped. All right. Just in case you happen to be in this state for any reason, it really helped. One, I really let myself feel my feelings. I knew I was feeling down. I knew I was feeling in my fear. And I just let myself witness being there. I'm reading a book called Letting Go by, I think it's Richard Hodkus. It's great. And it was really helpful in terms of he was a big student of consciousness and talked a lot about how just when we're aware of our feelings, just even for just a few minutes, it really allows that to just shift us into a different state if we remove attachment from it. Of course, we hear this in mindfulness meditation, right? It's the same principle. So I did that as much as I could. I reached out to my friends, which is a really smart move. Women tend to be really great at this. Guys, it's good for you to start doing it too. And it builds that oxytocin. It makes us feel more connected, and that helps our immune system. So I reached out to my friend and I'm like, I'm really tired. I don't know if I'm getting better. What's wrong? And she's a practitioner as well. And she was just like, oh, Jenny, it's okay. You're going to heal, and it just takes time. And it was all the things that I tell my patients and I know is true, but sometimes you just got to hear it yourself. Sometimes the doctor needs to hear it too, that she's going to be okay. And then the third thing I did is I went and I got a treatment. I happened to know somebody who's great I knew she was available. She does this beautiful, very gentle energy work. And I knew that I just need a little bit of energy input into my system. I'm very energetically aware. I could tell there was just gunk in here, just partly from the illness, partly from whatever I picked up when I was traveling in the Dominican Republic. And also just my mindset, it was toxic too. I was in my toxic stuff, and I needed somebody who could help me move my energy body into a place where there was more flow. And this person totally could see what was going on and really helped me just shift my energy just a little bit. She's just like, oh, just a little bit up here and just move things. And it helped bring up my light, right? And so those are the 3 things I did yesterday. And honestly, it really, really helped. And like all my other videos, like I've said, I kept taking my frickin' stuff. Like I'm so tired of taking things every hour, but I kept doing it. You know, I'm taking my herbs, I'm doing my oils, I'm taking my supplements, I'm eating the foods that are good for my body and doing all the things, including going to bed, so that I can boost my body. This morning I woke up and still felt tired. But the thing that's different about today is that I'm having periods of like, it's interesting. It's really smoky outside right now. There are forest fires, total bummer, but it's smoky and it's sort of almost like there are times when like the smoke lifts in my brain and my energy goes up and my brain feels clear and I feel like I'm coming more back into my body. I've been doing a little bit of work. I've been doing a few chores and then I get suddenly really tired and I go lie down and rest. But I am finding that I so far, knock on wood today, I have been able to do things and have clarity and more energy and then rest a little bit and then go back. Now, right now, I'm about ready to take my nap. I did my chores, I watered the garden, I did the dishes, and that's like all my, that's like a workout now. So that got me to a place where I feel physically tired enough to actually sleep. So my doggy and I are going to curl up on this very smoky day and take a little bit of nap and get some recharge and then get back to my day in the afternoon.
The next day.
Day 16 of COVID, and today's been gnarly. I've been tired, screaming headache. And it's tough, you know, it's tough to hang in there. And I think that I anticipated that I'd be feeling better last night because I was feeling better last night. And I thought that what I was going to be saying today is that I'm at one of those risk points that everybody gets to, whether you're treating an acute infection or a chronic infection, which is when you start feeling better, it's easy to forget taking your stuff or to do it less or to, start eating treats instead of the food that's really good for you or, drinking too much alcohol or staying up too late, all that stuff. Like we all do that. And I thought, honestly, that's where I was going to be today. And it's not. Today I'm back to feeling like, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through this week where I'm going back to work to kind of make it through. So I know a lot of you have been here where you're struggling with your energy and you still have the things that you need to do. Like you still need to work and take care of the kids and take care of the house. And how do you manage that? So what I am doing is I really took a hard look at my schedule this week and I've whittled it down to what just is what I'm evaluating is necessary for me. And I'm going to see how it goes tomorrow. And if it's too much, then obviously I need to back down more. If it's something that I can handle, then great. Then that's what I'm going to do. I'm still really of the mindset that I am actually beating this COVID little thing that has crawled into my mitochondria, and I am intellectually really curious about studying more about it so I can just understand it even more. That's how I got out of chronic fatigue. Was I really couldn't find any experts that could really help me. They all had little pieces of the puzzle, but I didn't really have anybody to really help me with the whole path, with the whole map for myself. And so I had to do that work. And I if you haven't heard my story, when I got chronic fatigue the second time, I was in severe pain and I couldn't sleep. So I just got up and I started researching and trialing and erroring myself. And then I had all these patients that were coming to see me with chronic fatigue. And that's how I began to understand the pattern of chronic fatigue in people. A lot of that applies to what's happening to me in my body right now with COVID. I can tell that it's this viral infection that's gone into my mitochondria. And so I've just ordered a bunch of stuff that arrived today that I'm going to start taking to be addressing that. And I also think that COVID I think each virus has their own particular kind of idiosyncrasies, like their own unique expression of things. Chronic fatigue from Epstein-Barr viruses versus parvo versus chlamydia versus, cytomegaloviruses versus COVID are all slightly different. And so I'm really interested in diving into the literature to see what I can figure out now. And so that I can help more people with this. And so that's kind of the commitment that I have, and honestly the excitement that I have. I'm excited to see my patients tomorrow, but I'm also really excited to be learning this stuff, and that's great too. That helps me. I mean, you can see the energy come up in my body just when I talk about that, which is honestly, I'd say one of the I have two tips to kind of throw in here for today. One is making sure that no matter what's going on with your life, that you're focusing on things that bring you joy, because it does energize us in a huge way. And then the second thing, because I didn't say this a couple days ago when I had the day that I was really crashing emotionally, and I did all the great things about reaching out and all that stuff that I talked about. But the other thing that I did that day was I watched stand-up comedy for an hour, and I just made myself laugh. Now, I don't usually watch stand-up comedy, but I've started watching it because I realized through Norman Cousins, who healed his chronic disease through just making himself laugh 2 hours a day years ago, it kicked off a whole study of positivity and the impact of positivity on our immune system, that I know that cheering myself up is great. So I highly recommend that you just get out there and start laughing and remembering things that make you laugh, read things that make you laugh, pick up your favorite comic books, look at some stand-up comedy, whatever it is, funny movies, whatever it is for you that makes you laugh. Laugh is therapy. It's really good for us. So, all right, Dr. Jenny Tufenkian here, reminding you to love, have a good time here on my COVID diaries. So just remember, none of this is meant to treat or diagnose you. I'm just sharing my story.